Hello, boys. I usually translate from French into English, but some articles are just too damn good, and they follow current news stories. Someone asked me earlier, said, "Hey, please talk about Spagnolo." Well, I will, sir. I will with a pleasure. So, in order to introduce that Spagnolo topic, because I like to say Spagnolo was spaghetti until Canada probably creeped in and saved his ass. I don't even know the situation yet. I'm willing to bet it's going there. I can bet my left nut that's gonna happen. Count me in, bros. Watch. Now, before we even delve into the Spagnolo saga, see what the hell is going on, we're gonna look into a connex story, a adjacent story that crosses its path. An eerie path, you see, because Spagnolo should not be breathing. Spagnolo, in many other words, should have been spaghetti. By our law enforcement or by his enemies, there's just too many reasons to count. What I'm really trying to say here, my friend, is that Spagnolo was supposed to be spaghetti. Numerous ways, numerous times. Well, let's explore one of those times. Well, one informant says one victim of mob war was eliminated by mistake. Ooh, the informant told a Montreal murder trial that Vincenzo Spagnolo was killed by accident in 2016. The real target, my friend, he said, was Spagnolo's son, Nic. None other than Nic Spagnolo. And here we have the picture of the man involved. He's no longer here. Despite those luxury cars behind him, he left his luxury life away. And he even considered changing his son's name because the name Scoppa would draw too much heat, perhaps too much hatred, perhaps because of too much bloodshed. But by the way, someone mentioned, you always confuse them both. You damn right I do. Andrew and Sal. I always confuse him. I always call him Sal. He's Andrew Scoppa. And you know it says here that Andrew and his brother were real bandits, apparently. An informant testified in a murder trial. He said that he killed brothers Vincenzo and Giuseppe Falduto. Oh boy, you guys remember that? Two very, very low levels in the Rizzuto organization. Maybe even just shuffling cards. I don't know. But for some reason, they were targeted and wiped off the map. Perhaps to send a message. Who knows? Well, we have none other, it seems, to thank. Somehow, somewhere, we have a Scoppa involved in this. Well, look, the killer says he killed the brothers Vincenzo and Falduto on orders from Salvatore Scoppa. So, Salvatore Scoppa is not this guy, it's the other brother. The other brother looks a lot more psychotic. As part of a conflict between Calabrian and Sicilian groups that make up the Montreal Mafia. One of the men murdered during the internal conflict in the Montreal Mafia in 2016 was killed by error. An informant testified at the Montreal murder trial on Friday. The informant is key witness in the murder trials of Marie-Josée Viau, 46, and Guy Dion, 49. You'll note that the Montreal Mafia, or the opposing side, was using old people to carry out these hits. Even a woman. They used their properties to do the dirty deed, if you will. They brought the victims there and they killed them there. By surprise, of course, they ambushed them and carried out the dirty deed. I think they may have had a furnace there to heat up the bodies. Don't quote me on this. It's off the top of my memory. I could mix it up. But the couple, look at this, from a rural town accused of first-degree murder and conspiracy in the deaths of brothers Vincenzo and Giuseppe Falduto. The informant first took the witness stand on Thursday. Said he shot the brothers on June 30th, 2016, inside the couple's garage in St. Jude, while Vio and Zion made noise to drown out the gunfire. Oh, there you go. My memory's not that bad. For example, he said Zion mowed the lawn outside the garage as he shot Vincenzo first and then killed Giuseppe. So he was carrying out house cleaning. He also said he killed the brothers on orders from Salvatore Scoppa as part of the conflict between Calabrian and Sicilian groups that make up the Montreal Mafia. According to this informant, Scoppa and his brother Andrew Scoppa were part of a group, we know this, and they wanted to eliminate as many people who sided with the Sicilians. Imagine that. Even college-aged bookies. They even wanted to send a message there. That tells you a lot about the guy. Sal and Andrew were real bandits, the informant said, of the Scoppa brothers. who are now dead. They were in the mafia. Andrew was a guy at the table of decision makers, and Sal was a guy in the mafia. They imported drugs and trafficked in drugs. You see, our first observation here is that in order to make it to the table, notice this, my friend, they were not here in the beginning of the Montreal mob or from the days of the Calabrians. Of course not. They were way too young. They were born in that time. They were babies. But how could they reach the council of mafias at the table? Might I suggest you need to bring in weight? Might I suggest that it's all about making money, power, and the closest you are to the supply, the more powerful you are. In fact, you're probably milking in the profits. The higher you are at the ladder, the closer you are to the source. And so we have it right there. We have two signs right. He's at the table of councils with his brothers, and we know for damn sure they were part of the importation schemes. We know that for damn sure. They even helped to distribute it later on. Well, not distribute it retailly, but in the wholesale level. We heard it in the wiretaps. We heard Andrew talking to his the people he's supplying, calling them idiots. Quote, for example, Andrew told me, my brother makes half the money that I make in Parc Extension. Parc X. For my Greeks who know this is probably one of the first places they land. When they come from Athens and they land here, they will want to go to their communities. I used to live there at a certain time. The groceries are extremely cheap because, for those who don't know, here's a little bit of rundown of history. You're going to appreciate this. It comes from a local. Most immigrants, when they land, including your boy, Forger, when they landed, I was a kid, so I don't know anything. When they land, they'll usually land over there in Parc Extension. It's not a beautiful place, I can tell you that. But the location is sort of kind of special. It's kind of like in the middle a little bit. And it's like a middle artery for other neighborhoods to pass by. But like I said, the food is cheap. People move there. It's a first destination for immigrants. You'll find a high population of Sri Lankans, Greeks, not because they just moved there. Of course, people who move there will go directly there. But they've been there for a long time, is what I'm trying to tell you. So that's like Little Italy. You call Little Italy for Italians. Italians been here for a long time, right? It's just that's the remnant. That's where they put the flag down, man. And the flag hasn't been removed, right? It's the same thing for Greeks, if you want. Parc Extension. So there's seedier areas of that location, and there's not so seedier areas. The mix. You'll see the mix of Muslims, Indians, or whatever, Greeks. You see, everybody is mixing in together, doing their shopping or whatever. The prices are incredible. I used to pay, this was what, 2010? I used to pay, I think, for a 10-pounder of potatoes, I used to pay $1. Just imagine that, $1 for a 10-pounder of potatoes. You can't beat that. When you're poor as hell, that's the way to feed you. Now, let's keep going. For example, Andrew told me that he makes half the money that I make in Parc Extension, so he's talking about his brother. I knew that in Parc X, Andrew was making $2 million a year. I bet you he wasn't selling cupcakes. On Friday, the information said that one of the people that shot Scoppa's group was killed by mistake. He was referring to Vincenzo Spagnolo, a 65-year-old man who was killed in October 2016 in Laval. The informant said that the people who carried out the hit were supposed to kill Spagnolo's son, Nic. Damn. You might as well killed him. You killed his father. You know, it's not like you killed somebody else. He didn't know. You did the damage. We have done surveillance on Nic Spagnolo to see the environment. The informant said, adding that one of his accomplices told him Nic Spagnolo had changed his habits after the Faldudo brothers were killed. Remember this, my friend. Nic Spagnolo's in court right now for another saga. One thing that I wanted to mention here, I'm not in the mob, obviously, but I could tell by the research that I've done that this Nic Spagnolo is going to be one of our main characters in the future, regardless of which direction he goes. Does he go the Del Balzo way, or is he loyal? But sooner or later, you know what happens. We're still in a mob war. If they target someone, I'm just saying, in my humble opinion, or not so humble, Nic Spagnolo is going to be targeted. And looking at the past, well, I'm pretty spot on to make this conclusion. It's gonna happen again, eventually. I don't hope that, obviously. I don't wish death on nobody. I don't wish nobody to be hurt. That's for sure. I'm just reading the newspaper. The people who killed Spagnolo were paid $20,000. Now, we have We have a bid, guys. We have a bid. We have some data. We're going to be able to use this for logical reasons in the future. I don't know when, but look at this. $20,000 for a fucking man, bro. That's how much they paid for this guy. I'm shocked. I would have expected him to be worth a lot more than this. The informant said they collected $20,000. The job was done by guys who made an error and killed Mr. Spagnolo instead of his junior. His son wasn't even in the house. You wonder, does that mean you get your money back? Or is this the payment after the botched hit? They said, no, we're giving 20,000. I don't know, bros. You tell me if there's a detail that I need to add to this so that we can understand. The informant also revealed on Thursday that he was the gunman in the murder of Rocco Solicito, the father of none other than
the solicitor,
the Montreal Mafia leader who was killed in May of 2016 in Laval.
The police are being blunt about an execution-style killing in Montreal. They call it a mob hit. One of that city's most powerful crime families lost another of its top henchmen. Rocco Solicito was gunned down in broad daylight in Laval. It's not the first mob hit in Quebec, and as Amanda Jelowicki reports, it almost certainly
will not be the last.
The shooting was bloody and brazen. At 8:30 this morning, with witnesses around, a reputed leader in Montreal's Mafia pulled up to this stop sign in a Montreal suburban neighborhood. Lurking in the bus stop, at least one assailant. The attacker shot 67-year-old Rocco Solicito multiple times. He died soon after. It all happened right around the corner from Laval Police Headquarters. Arrested in 2006 during a massive crackdown on Montreal's Mafia, Solicito got out of prison months ago. He was a senior member of the Rizzuto clan. They were once considered Canada's most powerful crime family, with an iron grip on the drug trade. The current heads, reportedly Solicito and Vito Rizzuto's sons, were both arrested in November and remain in jail. The leadership is slowly being killed off.
I don't think the dust is going to settle soon. I think there's going to be a few more heads that can fall.
And experts say it could be an internal purge or external threats from increasingly powerful Haitian street gangs and the Hells Angels.
I think the mafia is in a big disarray, is incapable to react, and is facing a powerful challenge.
And insiders warn that as the Rizzuto family fights for survival, the violence likely isn't over. Amanda Jelowicki.
So his father died. Usually, what happens is the son, well, from what we could tell, the son becomes twice as bold. Usually he says, well, my father was the underboss. My father held this shit together for so long. This empire was built off his blood. He even died for it. So why should I let it go? It's mine. You can see where we're going with this. That's my opinion on what's sort of happening, the psychology. I'm no psychologist, but you know, you read a bit of this and these characters, or you hear quotes from them that's recorded, and you get a sense of an idea of perhaps what kind of man he is, or what kind of train of thought he's having right now. We can only contemplate for our own entertainment. But look at this. While answering additional questions about Solicito's murder from the prosecutor, Pascal Lecarbeau, on Friday, the informant said that the location selected for the slaying, a bus stop on Saint-Éliséard Boulevard West, wasn't the first choice. In the days leading up to the shooting, the informant said he and his accomplices, who cannot be named for the time being, stalked out another location, a construction site near Solicito's home. The plan was dropped, he said, because there were too many security cameras near the site. He said he told one of his accomplices, "You have been following Solicito for 30 days, parked near cameras. You're a total imbecile." Oh, you can't make this stuff up. The informant said that after killing the Falduto brothers, he was asked to kill the other men he considered to be friends. Who are those guys? One friend was Arsène B.M. Mompoint, who was killed in Kanatasaki last month, and the other was a man the informant described as Mompoint's right-hand man. I refused. I said yes to the Calabrians, but I refused. I went to go see them, but PM, Arsène Mompoint, had been arrested. At that point in 2016, the informant said, adding he warned Mompoint's associate. The informant also said he ultimately ended up working for both sides in the conflict late in 2016, after one of the people working for the Calabrians decided it was time to betray Salvatore Scoppa and kill him. In either November or October of 2016, an accomplice whose name cannot be published for the time being asked if I could get rid of Sal Scoppa, if I could find money for his head. The accomplice sent me to the other side, but he betrayed me, the informant said, adding he eventually went to see a man named Charlie Renda, who allegedly was on the Sicilian side of the conflict. In December, Renda gave me 22 caliber firearm with a silencer because I said we didn't have tools where we were working. He gave me that and an amount of 40,000. I was supposed to get 100,000 plus another 100,000 if I killed another accomplice whose name cannot be published for them because he did Lorenzo. The informant said in a reference to Lorenzo Giordano, another leader in the Sicilian side of the conflict who was killed in Laval in 2016. The informant added that he did not carry out the contract for Renda. Renda has been missing till this very day. He just vanished. He just poof. You would have thought he was abducted by aliens. They found Renda's Infinity unlocked with the windows down and the keys in the ignition. Did Scoppa's goons scope out Renda? Did they torture every ounce of his body for the coveted books? I turn your attention back to Spagnolo as our saga continues in this mob war, as we follow the current men of the hour, those who are very likely composing the Council of Mafias. Will you join us on this quest for answers? On this North American mob war that's been raging on for a decade after the cards have crumbled for Vito Rizzuto? Will the sons of Solicito, Renda, and Rizzutos be able to reclaim the dynasty, the Cattolica Heraclea Game of Thrones? As violence seems to reign supreme, you and I know better, because the pen is mightier than the sword. Become a Crafty One. Subscribe and join us.